That was on fleek. Those people here who were here last week know what that means. It's all good. So today is a day where we are going to explode some assumptions. I am looking forward to that. When you get to be, when you've been around a couple of years, you look forward to having the things you hold in your mind stirred up like with a big stick, right? Because out of that comes aliveness and freshness, because otherwise we'd all be rocks. I know sometimes I feel rather rock-like, and like I don't really want to add anything new, but then again, newness is fun. We're going to take a look at continuing on with the Gospel of Q. We're going to take a look at this one phrase from Luke. Give to everyone who begs from you. Because nobody knows how to take that. It's radical any way you look at it. Give to everyone who begs from you. We're going to start with a scholarly look and just a little reminder of what the Gospel of Q is. The Gospel of Q comes from the two source hypothesis that Matthew and Luke, those Gospel writers, independently used Mark and a second source termed Q for Quelle, which means source in either German or French. I don't remember which. So it's about the people who are way smarter than me and who study ancient languages, who look at the ancient languages and figured out the similarities and they figured out a source. And the reason we care about it is because it seems like the earliest connection to the historical Jesus. That's why we care about that. Because it feels like these are the things that we can count on that he said. Because nothing was written down about Jesus when he was going around talking. There's something called a Jesus Seminar, and if you're interested in this Bible scholarship, just look up Jesus Seminar online. There's fascinating articles and information about it. They're a group of people who, they got together, and so they went through the Bible, and they decided, with their scholarship and their praying, they decided that they identified the things that they were pretty sure that Jesus said, and then they also identified things that they were not as certain that originated with Jesus, words that were not his, although they contained ideas very close to him, and then other sayings that were embellished by or created by his followers or borrowed from common lore. All of it's good and all of it's inspirational. All of it's good and all of it's inspirational. So from the give to everyone who begs, the whole phrase is give to everyone who begs from you, and when someone takes your things, don't ask for them back. The Jesus Seminar people say give to everyone who begs from you is most likely from Jesus, because it was a new thing. It wasn't in common lore. That wasn't a phrase going around. The next part of Luke, verse 31, is treat people the way you want them to treat you, which is a really good phrase, but it's definitely in common lore in many, many cultures. So, give to everyone who begs from you, and when someone takes your things, don't ask for them back. That is probably not his actual words, according to the scholars, but they contain ideas that are close to his. That's a little bit of that Q scholarship. Now here's an interesting and a little bit mainstream Christianity interpretation. Remember that Jesus is instructing disciples, not government agencies or NGOs. He's not giving a formula for eliminating poverty. Neither is he necessarily instructing a church's institutional approach to community development, although he's informing it. On those levels, it's necessary to identify and strategically address the causes of poverty. But here's what he is doing. He is calling us to radical generosity. Radical generosity. The kind that looks weird in the world, the kind that sifts our motives and tests our love, the kind that is almost impossible for the natural person. But let's take heart. That's the way it's supposed to be, for with man it is impossible, but not with God, for all things are possible with God. So that's a little bit of a, just a Christian interpretation. It's asking a lot of us, give to everyone who begs. Now, in unity, it's a very strong unity tradition to look at things metaphysically. And that means to look at things as they apply to you. One way of looking at that is to see that, what does it draw out from you personally, and how is it related to you? How is it a reflection of you? If you look at this phrase, how can it be a reflection in your life? So, metaphysically, give to everyone who begs. If I look at that as it's a part of myself, I think, well, what parts of me or what parts of you are begging? What part of you is begging for your attention? Is there a part of you that is buried deep inside that you haven't been paying attention to? Is it, as my friend Dan says, is it squirrels biting your ankles? Or is it like a squirrel biting your ankle? Or is it like an alligator chomping your you-know-what? What is that part of you? It's not completely silent. Then again, what are you begging for? So let's turn that around. If you think about it, what are you begging for that you're not getting? There's probably something that if the magic fairy godmother was standing in front, you would say, yeah, give me this. Or please, can I have this? What are you begging for? The part of yourself. What is your regular work on yourself? What is calling for support? So we're going to do a tiny little exercise. It's just going to take a minute, because part of how some people really have to learn, including me, is by doing. So everybody just close your eyes for a minute. Oh, actually, I forgot. I was going to offer this in two ways. If you're the person who likes to close your eyes and let it come up, do that. Otherwise, take one of those handy pads of paper that are on the seats in the pockets, and a piece of paper, because some people like to make lists. I am among them. So either close your eyes and think about this, or make a list. And here's the question, okay? What part of you is begging? No. What part of you is begging? What part of you is begging for attention? What part of you is begging for spiritual support? What part of you is begging to be seen, or begging to come into your own? Okay. Everybody take a breath. Open your eyes. Come on back. So that is something, that was just a quick little bit, but that is the how of how we work this stuff. That is the how of how you look at things metaphysically. Part of what you want to do is take some scripture, and you ask the questions. Let the scripture work with you, and see what questions you can come up with, and answer them. Either in the silence, let them arise, or go ahead and write them down and see what comes up. Now, as I was working with this phrase, one of the things that came up for me was that there's a conventional unity wisdom about tithing. Tithing is giving financial support to where you're spiritually fed. That is the standard line of what unity teaches about tithing or giving. We call it tithing, but it doesn't always need. It's not always 10%. 10% is good. I'm a minister. I'm not going to say don't give 10%, but the unity teaching is very specific about giving to where you're spiritually fed. And there's also a unity teaching about do not give to need. Don't give to need. Well, Jesus says right here, give to everyone who begs from you. So how do we reconcile that unity teaching of don't give to need? And I'm going to turn that teaching a little bit on its head today for me to help us explode some assumptions. For example, I'm going to say that instead of saying don't give to need, how about don't give to lack, or don't give with a feeling of lack? But giving to need is not necessarily a negative thing, because I definitely believe that needs are a part of our spiritual growth. That the needs that you have, or the needs that we meet for other people, needs are beautiful. They're actually beautiful because they're telling us something. You know what your soul needs. You know what your soul needs. Especially when we take the time to write a list or sit in the silence, we know what our soul needs. So we do want to give to need, because needs are the way for things to come out into the world. You know, something amazing might start as a need. I'm pretty sure that cell phones started as a need for communication, or a need for somebody who was having fun with technology. Who knows? There's probably about 50. We could have fun with thinking of 50 different needs that are met by the people who created cell phones. Yeah? One of the things that I love about technology is actually the miracle of being connected to so many people so far away. It really is a miracle, and it is changing the world. Maybe not always the way you want it, but in definitely some beautiful ways, the possibility. So that need flowered into something nobody would have imagined 2,000 years ago. So I would say that turn that on its head. Now, the three things I wanted to look at when I look at this, when I look at a Bible scripture, was the scholarly look, the personal, metaphysical look, how do you look at it personally? And then the third was kind of the way Jesus taught, that way he had of exploding assumptions, that at that time nobody had, especially when you look at the Jesus seminar stuff, they're looking at stuff that wasn't in the common lore. So it was to stir you up, to take the stick into your brain and stir it around and see what happens. That is one of his teaching methods. So I wanted to identify with some ways that I have my assumptions exploded. Now, I'm going to talk about this while Roland gets his video ready, and I'm going to turn off the lights. The first video I want to show you about exploding assumptions is a video of Ram Dass. Maybe we can turn off the backlights too. That's great. And we'll dim our little globe just for now. Ram Dass first went to India in 1967. He was still Dr. Richard Alpert, a prominent Harvard psychologist and psychedelic pioneer with Dr. Timothy Leary. He continued his psychedelic research until he went to India in 1967, and he met his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, affectionately known as Maharaji, who gave Ram Dass his name, which means servant of God. Everything changed then. And here's what I remember about the reading I've done and listening to Ram Dass. This is one little bit, but the thing I want you to remember, and why I talk about this exploding assumptions, is he talks about, Ram Dass talks about, he went from his life, which was really intellectual, to a whole spiritual realm from using psychedelics that opened him up to a whole different world. And I'm not advocating that everybody goes out and drops acid, okay? I'm not saying that. We don't need to. He did it for us. But it completely, you've seen those memes on Facebook, mind blown. Well, that was the first and real mind blown stuff was happening then, right? So his mind was blown. And it's so interesting to me also to notice where Ram Dass went and where Timothy Leary went. You know, both of them having the experience. And Ram Dass went straight to, as he later talked and wrote about, to his soul's journey. It was another way to connect to his soul's journey. And the thing I really remember is, I don't know about you, but in the 70s, I remember exactly the year it was. It was 1979. I met a guy at a camp, a summer camp. I was working there, and he had this book called Be Here Now, and I'd never seen it before. Who's seen that book, Be Here Now? Okay. So for a lot of us, that was an amazing book that was our first glimpse certainly our first glimpse into a spirituality of a different faith, Hinduism. And I remember after I read that book, and I thought it was awesome and marvelous, and of course, since the guy who I met had that book, I was totally, thought he was happening. And later, Ram Dass said, Be Here Now came about, he later said it wasn't his book. He didn't write it. He was the vehicle. So here's just a little video about that.
Maharaji sitting on his tucket. I remember mostly when in the first time in India, Haridas said, Maharaji extended his Ashirvad for your book. Just that. So that means nothing to me. So I heard, what did Ashirvad mean? Blessing. Blessing my book. What book? I'm not doing a book. I don't know. Maharaji gave his blessing for a book. And within a few years, Be Here Now came. And Be Here Now, most people found in Be Here Now something that powerfully turned their spiritual life. And I just watched this thing. I mean, he's sitting on his tucket, a blessing, and then people get that. There's a hit, Mm-hmm. When Maharaji's in the mix, nothing is as it seems.
So the next assumption I want to explode, I'm going to have Neil deGrasse Tyson explode it for us. So Neil deGrasse Tyson was born and raised in New York City, where he was educated in the public schools, clear through his graduation from the Bronx High School of Science. He went on to earn his BA in physics from Harvard and his PhD in astrophysics from Columbia. Tyson's research interests are broad, but include star formation, exploding stars, dwarf galaxies, and the structure of our Milky Way. Now, what I want to say about this is, probably everybody here has seen a couple of those amazing clips about of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and if not, I am so happy to introduce you to him, because he is kind of like the spokesperson for outer space in a way right now for us. And he brings these concepts like particle physics, which seriously I don't really understand, even though I pretend to, and teaches them to us. But what I love the most about him is that he is a scientist, but he has this amazing sense of wonder, and when I listen to him talk, I feel like he's always amazed and surprised. So here's a little bit about what's so surprising and interesting. One of the things. Yeah.
Thank you.
There were two strange sequences in your planetarium show, and I managed to go online and look at
You become a dark matter junkie here. You're going on. You need more. Give me more.
So let's talk about the scene of dark matter from your show at the planetarium.
So what's going on here is you're viewing the structure of the large-scale universe. And what we've represented here are dark areas that themselves have more gravitational attraction than the light areas. So the light areas are drawing themselves to the dark areas. And so what happens is, as this happens over the eons, structure begins to manifest in the universe. And you see this web work, and it looks almost organic, or it looks like some kind of neurosynaptic map. The formation and collection of matter in the universe follows the laws of physics, and when you add in the dark matter, this extra gravity, it turns the universe into the universe that we see. That's why we know the dark matter is real. We don't know what it is, but we know it's there because we can't make the universe as we see it unless we put this extra gravity into our simulations to match the gravity that we see.
So you know it's something.
It's something. And there's some exotic ideas for it, by the way. Particle physicists are convinced that it might be an exotic particle that doesn't interact with us. It doesn't interact with our light or with our telescopes, but that it has gravity. So these particles are doing their own thing, invisible to us, but otherwise attracting our matter into nucleating us among them. So, but of course a particle physicist would think that the solution is a particle. If you're a hammer, all your problems look like nails. One of the more intriguing accounts I've heard is if you have multiple universes, it turns out gravity can spill out of one universe and be felt by another. And if we have another universe adjacent to ours, it could be that these sites where we see extra gravity is ordinary gravity in a parallel universe. And here we are looking at it mysteriously like, what is this? It's like the blind man touching the elephant. I don't know what this whole thing is, but here I can describe this part of it. And it's kind of textured, and it's, no, this guy, it's smooth and hard. And you can't see the whole elephant. Maybe the elephant is ordinary gravity in another universe, and we're feeling it, and we're making stuff up just to account for it.
You think that...
Hey, so I had to watch that a couple of times, but if you caught any of that, he's actually saying there's universes, parallel universes, sliding into each other and that affecting us so that it looks like dark matter, but that dark matter is something out there that we don't really know what it is. We don't really know what it is. When I was looking, I was trying to find just the right Neil deGrasse clip, and I looked at one that he's looking at all the things we know about the universe. He says we know 4%. 4%. Not just what we think, this is just what we think. Now, if that doesn't get you a little bit excited for wanting to explode some assumptions and take something that you've always believed and just explore turning it on its head, see where it leads you, go down a few rabbit holes, and see what happens. So our assignment, including me for this week, is to, one is to go ahead and give to everyone who begs, or any other favorite Bible phrase, and let it work on you a little bit. Spend some time with it, look at it metaphysically, take it into the silence, write a little bit about it. And then let's use that technique that Jesus used to teach. Let's throw some things on our head. Let's explode our assumptions. And like Ram Dass or Neil deGrasse Tyson, who knows where we're going to go. Let's take an offering for unity. I invite you to